internally and externally to where the money we received at the British Council, and is that we need to have those statistics. We have objectives in terms of visibility, you know, reaching certain type of audiences and numbers, but more and more it's about telling the story of impact and how do you actually do that. And it's not about telling the story for what the British Council needs, but it's actually telling the story of what we need as a sector in terms of, I would say, upping our game in terms of the importance of the culture sector in general. You know, the value that is created by our sector is enormous. It's just that we're not really good at telling that story sometimes.
And I think the other thing, just as a partner, like the way I work with my colleagues, not just in the Australia Council, but in my colleagues, is that the part of the story, when it becomes a partner, is when you start to have a shared experience together. So, you know, when we're taking delegations out in the world, you know, we all have objectives together and it's shared. So, and you know, Sal and I have been travelling around. I don't even fund you, whatever, but we really have created a story, and these are the special friendships, and that's the element I'm interested in as well. I think there's stories and friendships and cultural engagements and hosts and interconnections. So it's deep, it's very fulfilling. So how do we, as funders, go on that journey with you? So it's our story, you know?
But it's an interesting discussion in general. I think on Monday morning we had the On the Move organized this meeting around funders, and in our small group we were talking about openness, you know, funders in terms of which way is it access for all. You know, in the grant application you have that because it's open to all. You know, anybody can, and there is a mechanism to access. But actually, in some ways, you know, having that deeper conversation and partnership building is a very different type of conversation. So as if you actually need both mechanisms to kind of look at, okay, what ideas are out there that are really interesting, great, you know, and which have the potential for a very long-term engagement. So it's a bit, it's, you know, these personal relations actually do play very strong, but they should be based on an open access, you know, of information and opportunities. There's a question there. Oh, sorry, maybe not a question. Yeah.
Hello, it's David Micklem, independent producer from England. Just two reflections. One is hearing this talk about love and friendship and long-term relationships. I'm totally into all that, and it's quite difficult to measure, isn't it? It's quite difficult for a funding organisation to kind of justify, you know, the expense of bringing me here. You know, I've fallen in love many times over the last few days, but that's quite difficult to kind of report back on. And so, how does the Australia Council, how does the British Council, how do other funders who've been part of this understand that you might not get an instant result from falling in love? You know, that it takes time to build relationships. It takes time. It takes several meetings. You know, we're on a first date here. You know, how do you kind of? I'll stop the metaphor